Dobro večer svima. Ok, dobro nam došli. Drago nam je da ste se povezali sa nama večeras, da ste odvojili vrijeme za nas i za vas. Imamo fantastičnu temu večeras i tema je jako srce i mudar um. Šta bi čovjek uopšte hteo više da zna? Nego kako da ima jako srce i mudar um? A imamo vrlo specijalnu predavača večeras, a to je Maureen Goodman iz Londona, iz Engleske. Maureen je učiteljica rađe meditacije već više od 40 godina. A isto tako je predstavnik Brahma Kumaris u Ujedinjenim nacijama u Beču. I tako da je vrlo aktivna što se služenja tiče i prenošenja ovog znanja na globalnom nivou. Inače je direktor engleskog dela, londonskog dela Brahma Kumarisa. I ja sam upoznala Maureen pre jedno 20 godina i iz ličnog iskustva bi mogla da vam kažem da je Maureen vrlo praktičan predavač. Vrlo praktično predaje i prenosi svoje znanje na praktičan način, tako da kad ona nešto predstavi, samo treba da prenesem u praksu, ne moram ništa da varim, toliko je praktično i to je fantastično. Nadam se da ćete se složiti do kraja predavanja sa mnom. Ok, to je to, znači tema je jako srce i mudar um. A ja ću sada da vam, znači predavanje će biti na engleskom, ali imamo poseban kanal za prevod i sada ću vam pokazati, ako ne znate, kako to da uradite. Nadam se da sada vidite moj ekran, je li tako? Znači, možda gledate ovaj program, možda ste se uključili sa kompjutera, a možda sa telefona. Ako ste se uključili sa kompjutera, onda ćete na dnu svog ekrana vidjeti globus i tu piše interpretation ili interpretacija, zavisi na kom jeziku vam je Zoom, ali definitivno ovaj znak. I onda, kada pritisnete na ovaj znak, imat ćete opciju da izaberete engleski ili bosanski. Naravno, nema poente birati engleski zato što je predavanje na engleskom. Izaberite bosanski ako vam treba prevod. Znači to će biti list, ne ovoliki, ali izaberite bosanski i to je to. To je na kompjuteru. Ako ste se uključili na telefonu, onda, zato što meni je mnogo veće nego što ekran može da pokaže, onda pritisnite 3 tačkice da bi videli language interpretation. I to može isto da bude na raznim jezicima, ali ako je na engleskom, onda piše language interpretation i onda sa liste izaberete bosanski. Nadam se da je to jasno. I nadam se da ste sve uspeli. Kad to pritisnete, počet ćete da čujete prevod. Ok. Dobro. Znači, to je što se prevoda tiče. Na kraju, sada će Maureen da nam predstavi svoje predavanje, a pri kraju predavanja imat ćete priliku da postavljate pitanja. Ovo predavanje se prenosi na Zoomu i na Facebooku isto vreme. Ako ste na Zoomu, molim vas postavite pitanja na chatu, a ako ste na Facebooku, onda tamo pa će se vaše pitanje preneti nama. Ali svakako gde god da ste imat ćete priliku da postavite pitanja i slobodno pitajte pitanja kad god želite postavite pitanja, ali imajte na umu da će pitanje biti odgovoreno samo na kraju, da ne bi prekidali predavanje i onda ćemo imati kratku meditaciju i mala odjava. Ok, nadam se da ste sve razumeli i onima koji treba prevod, nadam se da su uspeli da se povežu na prevod. I sada bih htjela da pozovem Maureen da nam podeli svoje misli. Maureen, I would like to welcome you now to share your thoughts with us on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction. And as you said, I'm sure it was all fine. It's very nice to be with you and to be with several countries in the area. And I have visited the Balkans a couple of times, and I've been very happy to be there and happy to be here virtually with you now. And I think our topic, a wise mind and a strong heart, is very relevant to what it is that we are going through as a community, as a nation, as a world. And there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear, and we all know that things seem to get better for a while, and then the pandemic seems to rear up again. So it's still uncertain. And today in Britain, people are very happy to be able to go shopping to non-essential shops for the first time and so on. But we really do, I feel anyway, and many people too, that we really need wisdom to guide us now. And we don't just want to do things haphazardly, take decisions and then have to rethink them. It's difficult, and it's been difficult for governments to know what to do. But I do think wisdom, real wisdom, plays a part. And wisdom is something that works for the good of everybody. Wisdom is something that is not for the interests of one particular group of people, but wisdom is something that really can benefit everybody. So when decisions are taken on the basis of wisdom, it really is with a decision taken with a very broad perspective. And the theme is, of course, a wise mind. Now, the mind, we all know about our own mind, and nobody knows our own mind better than we do. And our mind can fluctuate a lot. And I'm sure, like you, I find that my mind can fluctuate depending on the situation, depending on relationships, depending on what's going on around me. And when my mind is fluctuating and thoughts are arising in the mind on the basis of the surrounding environment, then it's very difficult to call that mind. In fact, you can't really call that mind a wise mind, because it's more a mind that is at the mercy of influences around it. And so that means it's a mind that keeps changing, and there's no steadiness, no stability. And if I want to make my mind into a wise mind, then I have to begin to understand what are the thoughts that I can create, or what would my mind look like if I were not just allowing thoughts to arise because of external stimuli. And you know, this is what happens. I see something and then I think about it. I hear something, I think about it. So external stimuli comes and immediately thoughts arise. So a wise mind would actually not allow that to happen. But now let me take a step back. A person who has a wise mind, because the mind belongs to me, right? A person who has a wise mind would be somebody who can be in a state of mastership or have mastery over their mind. And they would be able to not just allow thoughts to emerge, arise because of what's going on around, but they'd be able to consciously create thoughts of their own choosing. Now that's a very different state, isn't it?
Sister Maureen, can I stop you for a moment? I'm really sorry.
No problem.
We have a problem with translation.
Okay.
So people cannot hear the translation.
Okay.
If you can just give us a minute to try to sort this out.
Yeah.
Okay, so the translation channel has been restarted, so I'll just give instructions. Znači, kanal za prevod nije radio, zato smo ga restartirali i sada ga već opet vidite, tako da svi kojima treba jezik, opet pritisnite na onaj globus i izaberite bosanski. A ako nas slušate sa Facebooka, a treba vam prevod, onda vas molimo da se prikačite na Zoom, zato što samo na Zoomu možete da čujete prevod, na Facebooku neće biti prevoda. I onda pritisnite na globus i izaberite bosanski. Samra, da li možeš da potvrdiš, da li možemo da krenemo?
Mislim da možemo.
Okay, we can start again. We can continue now.
Okay. Do you want me to repeat a little bit?
Just a little bit, maybe.
Maybe. Okay, because in essence, I was mentioning about wisdom and how wisdom is something that's for the benefit of everyone. And we need wisdom today in our decision making because there's so much uncertainty and so much fear around also. And so then just looking at the mind and how can I have a wise mind? What does it mean? And so a mind, one is that my mind can just be working according to the stimuli around me. So I may see something, I begin to think about it. I hear something, I begin to think about it. So I'm not then actually the master of my mind. So if I want to have a wise mind, then I have to be able to be the master of my mind and to begin to create thoughts of my conscious choosing, rather than just allowing thoughts to arise because of what I'm seeing through my senses. Now that's a very different way of being, isn't it? One is that my mind, and I remember being in a dialogue many years ago, and this was with people who were leaders in different ways in their communities. And we're in a small group, and I said that it's possible to have to consciously choose your thoughts and feelings. And there was one person in the group who was startled by this. He said, "What? What are you saying? You can consciously choose your thoughts and feelings? That's impossible." Very interesting. So it indicated that his mind was absolutely just wandering according to whatever was going on. And he was running after his mind. And, when I said that, it was a big turning point. He began to think and things began to change for him. We think it's not possible. Of course it's possible. The mind belongs to me. It's an instrument for me to use. And so let me now use that mind. My mind is very valuable. My mind is, thoughts are energy. Oh, again, we're having interpretation problems?
Yes, we did have, and we were trying to restart without interruption, but obviously it didn't work.
Right.
So
Oh dear. All right. No,
I'm not sure why we are having this problem, but Summer is trying to sort it out. So I think it's available again.
Okay, I haven't learned Bosnian yet, I'm afraid.
Okay, so some aspiration for you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just tell the people. Znači, ako vam ste ispali iz prevoda, a verovatno jeste, opet na globus i izaberite bosanski. Nadamo se da ćemo moći sada sve da... Ok, dobro. Znači, prikačite se opet i počinjemo. Ok, you can...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. You can
okay now?
Yeah, all good now.
All right, great. We have to be the master of the Zoom as well as the mind, right?
That's right.
So the mind, my thoughts are energy. In fact, I remember, I know some of you will know of or heard of Daddy Janki. She was the head of the Brahma Kumaris and passed away just over a year ago, at the age of 104. Amazing. And in fact, we had a tribute to her that some of you may have seen that was screened yesterday afternoon. But she really was the master of her mind, I have to say, and a person of a lot of wisdom, much wisdom. And in that, somebody was speaking of her and was sharing about a former president of India, when he was president, Abdul Kalam. He said of Daddy Janki, that Daddy Janki, she weeds her mind like a garden. So in other words, she didn't keep negativity in her mind, and she was very conscious of only creating positive, pure thoughts. And she would often speak of the energy of the mind and the power of thought. And she would say, there's thought, there's breath, and there's energy. So if my and they're all three connected. So if my thoughts are, going very fast, maybe I'm worried, maybe I'm stressed, I have so many things to think about, then what happens to my breathing? My breathing tends to be more shallow. What happens to my energy? I have less energy, right? Put it the other way. When we're feeling very calm inside and we have good thoughts and nothing is disturbing us, then our body is very calm, our breathing is calm, and really it feels like there's more energy with which to do things. So it's so important to understand or to realize the power of our thoughts and how our thoughts really are a very powerful energy for us to use in the best possible way. And we must use that energy well. Because actually, much of the quality of life that we have depends upon our thinking and the quality of our thinking, let me say. So how do I make my mind into a wise mind? How do I gain that sovereignty or mastery over my mind? And if my mind is to be wise, then my mind has to create thoughts, not on the basis of external stimuli, people's expectations, etc., etc. My mind has to create thoughts, or let me say, I have to use my mind to create thoughts on the basis of truth. Our world around us is changing all the time. Now it's very difficult to know. You see a post on Facebook, something comes on WhatsApp, and the whole thing of fake news. Is it true? Is it not true? And if I base my thinking on the external, well, it could be dangerous. It's just a little example, but I remember there was a beautiful photograph that came around which showed an elephant carrying a lion cub in its, in its trunk, and the lion walking alongside, and people thought, this is so beautiful. It was a fake photograph. But there are so many pieces of information out there, and we don't know what is true, what is false. So what do I mean then by allowing the mind to work, or making sure that the mind works on the basis of truth? What truth? It has to be the truth of who we are, of who I am. And this is the problem. I've not really known myself. We've not really known who we are. It's a big question in philosophy. Who am I? And there are many books written. And I know I used to try and read up on these things, and sometimes I'd just get a headache. It was so complex. Who am I? So the mind, instead of directing the mind outwards, we have to begin to direct the mind inwards. Instead of thinking on the basis of my roles and responsibilities, can I think on the basis of my inner true being? Because if you think about it, we play many roles, right? A mother, a father, a friend, a doctor, a teacher, a shop assistant, whatever. Many roles that we play. A consumer, a cleaner. Now, with each role, there's a certain baggage of expectation. And if I really identify with the role too deeply, then I lose my sense of self. So I identify with this role today and another role tomorrow. Who am I? I'm playing different roles, and all the time I'm trying to fulfill the expectations of others. And quite frankly, it's just about impossible to fulfill the expectations of others, because as soon as you fulfill one set of expectations, there's another set of expectations that are ready to come along. So, truth, going inside. Who am I? Who is playing all those roles in life? And, we've played different roles as we've progressed from childhood through adolescence, through our, adult years, but I'm still me, and I'm still here. And it's really funny. I remember as a child, I must have been 7 or 8, something like that. And I remember asking my mother, what's it like to die? And I think my mother was a bit scared. And I don't think she couldn't give me an answer. But I remember that, I don't know why, it just stuck in my mind. And I remember what my actual thinking was inside, but I couldn't express it. And it was, I can't imagine not being conscious, not being me. But I didn't know how to ask that as a child. So it came out as, what's it like to die? In other words, is that not being? And of course, as I've studied spiritual things, and particularly studied Raj Yoga with the Brahma Kumaris, I've learned about the inner being. I've learned about the soul itself. And the answer to that question, who am I? It just was so simple. I am a soul. 4 words. Maybe it's 2 words in another language, 3 words in another language. I am a soul. So this is the first truth, that I'm not the roles, and I'm not actually my physical body. And of course, we get very caught up in thinking that we are physical. Well, we all know that there will come a time when the soul has to leave. And if you've seen a body without a soul, in other words, a dead body, it's very clear that the soul is not there. The person is not there. And twice I've had that, I would say, privilege of being present when a soul left. And the first time I really watched it very closely, and the breathing became shallow, and then the soul just so gently, so peacefully flew away. And what was left? Just a shell. So it was clear to me that the whole being, the personality, the conscious living energy, the person who thinks and feels and acts and speaks, it's not in the body. It's not the body, but it's a conscious living entity in the body, which then leaves the body. And so if I'm to begin to develop that wise mind, which we all need, this is the first step, to understand the truth of who I am, and to understand the truth of my original state of being. And so that original state of being, I think you could guess, you may know, or you could imagine. It has to be a state of being that is pure and profound. I am, and my original state is peace. My original state is love. My original state is truth, is wisdom. So now begin to contemplate on this. I'm a spiritual being, a spiritual energy, and my original state is love, is peace, is truth. Now that's a very different way of thinking of yourself to thinking, well, I'm a mother and maybe I could do better. And what do people expect of me? And what should I do? What should I not do? When I'm thinking about myself as this being, then when I begin to think about my responsibilities, I begin to interact, I begin to speak with others, I begin to do action, and we are living in this world. We have to be very active. We can't just sit in a corner. We have responsibilities and duties. But now I begin to do them from a place of peace, rather than from a place of fear that I may fail, or I may not do the right thing, or I may not be good enough. I stop wanting to take the approval of others and instead feel that as a being, in my truth, I really have something very valuable to give through everything that I do. Even my thoughts, because thoughts hold a vibration. What vibration am I giving out? And when I think again about Daddy Yankee and the way it was described that she reads her mind and only keeps pure, powerful thoughts in mind, it's amazing. It was amazing just to be in her presence because of that, she had a certain aura around her. She had a certain presence. She created a certain atmosphere where you felt safe. And if you asked her something, you knew that she wasn't just going to think about 10 different things and come to an answer. She'd go inside and she would say this. First, I go into silence, and then I understand what is the right thing, what is the truth. And so she would see beneath the surface about what really was going on and what really was your need. It's a lovely little story I always like to tell when a couple came to Daddy and asked, Daddy, we're not getting on with each other. Should we get a divorce? And, you know, you can't ask somebody else, should you get a divorce? But anyway, they asked. And Daddy looked at them and said, yes, you should definitely get a divorce. But what you should divorce is ego and anger and irritation and disrespect. That's wisdom, isn't it? No. Look at the root of it. Look at what's happening and understand what's going to be good for everyone. So wise mind is really a mind that works on the basis of truth of who I am, but also as I'm interacting with others, I know the truth of who they are. So I'm not just seeing them in that particular relationship with the particular baggage that may go with it, but I'm seeing them also as this being of peace and love. And I think we're all very aware that the vision that you have for somebody has a profound impact on them. Definitely this happens with children. If you believe in them, if you give love, if you have that vision that, you know, they can achieve, they will. Our vision of somebody is so, so important. So, truth, who I am, and this is a shared truth because others are also beings. And it's very helpful, you know, when somebody is irritating you, as will happen, then to be in that state. I remember once leaving our center and somebody stopped me and really got quite angry with me about something. And they said, you know, you do this and this and this, 3 things they accused me of. And I was just very calm. I was in that state of truth. I was seeing them with that truth. So there was a love in me. I wasn't rejecting them. And I just was very calm and I just said, okay, thank you. And I said, I have love for you. You don't need to speak to me like this. Yes, but, you know, the person had to get it out. Anyway, as I walked home, I thought about what he said. And I thought, well, 2 of the things are really his stuff, actually. Not really to do with me, but one of the things is true, is right. It is wrong, what I'm doing. So good. I will change that. And when I came back the next day and I was in the office, and I have a little office off the main office, and the same person came into the main office and didn't see me apparently, and started going on about this. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I knew from the tone of his voice it was the same sort of thing. And anyway, then he left and somebody just came around and said, oh, did you hear what so-and-so was saying? I said, no, and I don't need to know. And I really didn't feel I needed to know because I hadn't let my vision of that person change. I'm not always successful at it, but this time it was very successful. And because of that, because I hadn't given any opposing vibration, within an hour he phoned me to apologize and said, oh, I'm so disgusted with myself. How could I speak to you like that? And I was able to say, it's fine, doesn't matter. We've known each other a long time, forget it. You know, I didn't need to say, oh yeah, well, you shouldn't have done that and you should have done that. No, it doesn't matter. Move on. And it was because of that vision. Otherwise, there would have been tension in the relationship for a while. And I realized something I could change. He realized something he could change. Isn't that a good thing? And too often, when something negative comes towards us, we react. And in fact, we react in the same way that they have approached us. Now, isn't that clever? Somebody's come to me in an angry way. I get angry back. Net result, 2 angry people, 2 upset people. No wisdom in that. No truth in that. So I can break the pattern by being in silence, understanding what I have to do. And it's interesting, we were remembering, you know, we have a phrase, Om Shanti, and it means I am peace. And Daddy Janki used to use this phrase 3 times. She would say it, Om Shanti, to mean I am peace, remember who you are. Om Shanti, who do I belong to? And she'd remember the one above, the divine. And then Om Shanti, what is it that I have to do? And when I'm in that state of inner peace, it's very clear what I have to do. There's clarity. There isn't any confusion. And so a wise mind, this is the route to a wise mind. And over the years, I've been able to stay in that sort of consciousness more and more, so that I'm less and less reactive, and I can actually take hold of my own state of consciousness a lot more. And of course, then we need as well, with a wise mind, we definitely need a strong heart, because many things will come to us. People do say things that they don't mean. People do insult you. People do, you know, get angry with us. So many things can happen, or we see something on the television that moves us, and, you know, our heart is where the feelings come in. And if somebody has, I wouldn't say a weak heart, but a delicate heart, then it's the feelings are in upheaval within. And even if the mind is wise, can't control the feelings, right? I'm sure you've been in that situation where you absolutely know what is right and that you shouldn't be getting so upset about this, but your feelings just overtake you. And there's like a volcano of feelings. Goodness me, what to do? I have to make my heart strong so that the negativity of the world doesn't penetrate my heart. And, you know, another thing that Daddy Janki would say always, keep your heart very clean, keep your heart very honest, and keep cleaning out your heart. So what does that mean? If there's any negativity in my heart for anyone, let me clean it out. Let me not hold it. And I think the conscience plays a good part here in terms of truth, in terms of knowing what is right. And, you know, when we sit with ourselves, even for a few moments, we just sit in silence and we just think, and we let our conscience speak. We know what is right. And we need the strength to listen to our conscience. When you see what's happening in the world today, it feels as if the conscience of people has gone to sleep. Sometimes it feels like there's no moral compass left. And it's very difficult in today's world. But I can do something. I can't change everybody else, but I can change myself. And as I do that, the momentum will grow and I will inspire others. So I have to make sure that my heart doesn't get penetrated with negativity. And the definition that Daddy gave, she said, and this was about detachment, because if I don't want my heart to be penetrated by negativity, and that's very painful when that happens, then I need to be detached in the sense of I need to have a pause, I need to have a gap between me and the situation, me and the person. And I can't just get drawn into someone's negativity. I have to keep my own sense of self, my own sense of being, my own sense of truth. And again, a story where Daddy was somewhere and she was her usual very animated and happy self, and somebody was sitting in the room, a woman who was very unhappy. And suddenly she burst out. She said, "What right have you to be so happy when I'm so miserable?" You can imagine. And Daddy just paused. And Daddy said to her, "Well, if I also become miserable, who would there be to bring you happiness?" So in other words, she didn't allow the negativity from that person to penetrate her heart. She kept her heart clean so that she could give. And her definition of detachment is never ever allowing sorrow to enter your heart. Now, if I don't allow sorrow to enter my heart, and my heart remains full of love, then what am I going to be giving? It will only be love, even in the most difficult of circumstances. And I've witnessed that in her, but I know also for myself, there have been times when, yes, that really has been possible. And I've seen the effect of it. It just melts the whole situation. And we all want a good outcome. And this is where we have to leave behind any thought of revenge, or maybe that's a strong word, getting our own back. We have a saying in English, I don't know how it translates in Bosnian, but giving someone a taste of their own medicine. In other words, whatever's been done to me, I'm going to do it to them. And yet, what does it say? It says, and this is the golden rule actually in all our major faiths, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. A very famous rabbi was asked to stand on one leg and sum up the whole teaching of Judaism. And he said, love thy neighbor as thyself. It's a very profound teaching, the golden rule. So in making my heart strong, these are the kind of things that I need to be aware of and I need to practice. Because if somebody is negative, and there's a lot of negativity in the world, then rather than my irritation and anger, they actually need my understanding, because there may be something that's happened in their life, something that's happening currently, maybe in the past, but something that is causing them to hurt inside. And so then that hurt is coming out and being projected onto whoever happens to be the closest. Or sometimes it's projected onto the people they know won't react. So we have to understand, we have to have understanding. And with that understanding, create that atmosphere for upliftment of that individual. So it's important. One thing is to say, let me not allow negativity to penetrate my heart. Let me clean out my heart. But the other is to say, let me fill my heart with love. So now where am I going to get that love from? Two things. One is that, yes, love is part of the original state of being. Yes, love is, this is our essence, is love. And when we are really, in our essence, then it's only love that's there. But sometimes we don't have the strength or the courage to allow that love to arise in us and to be expressed. It's a little bit dormant, it's a little bit hidden. And this is where we need the connection. We need a connection with God, with the divine. And it's only through that connection that the flow of God's love ignites my love. And I begin to fill up with love inside. I'm absorbing God's love, and my own love is filling up and coming to the surface. A beautiful image, isn't it? So I need to make that connection. I need to make that connection with the source of strength. And we have a very lovely saying, the courage of the child and the help of the father, God is the father or the parent. So when we show courage to take a step forward, to want to connect with God, to want to show love in our relationships, then God will reciprocate. Seeing our courage, God will take 1,000 steps towards us. Or in other words, God will give us the return of that courage 1,000-fold. But I do need to make that step of courage. And in the Hadith, I believe there's this beautiful saying, which I love. You go to him walking, he comes to you running. And so God really has love for each and every one of us. And so it's so important in silence to take that time to connect and to be able to fill the self with strength. We really need it in today's world. God wants to help the world, but we as human beings need to be open to that help. We need to be open to taking that strength and that love from God. So we need to make time for this. So now we have, okay, the truth of who I am, I the soul, I the being. And now the truth of who God is, the eternal, immortal being who is an unlimited source of love, of peace, of purity, of truth, of strength. Unlimited. So however much we take, still plenty for the whole world. It's an ocean that never dries up, a spiritual ocean that can never dry. And so when those truths come together, when we connect, then it's like that current. And, it's very lovely that relationship with God and, okay, in a way, it's a relationship in the sense that it's a connection, and you do feel as if here is a being who knows you and accepts you completely. And that gives you confidence within. And that love nurtures you. And the love heals as well. And when we see what's happening in the world today, and goodness, what can one say about what has happened in the Balkans not so long ago, within all our living history. And I remember my first visit there was, I think, 10 years after the war, or only visit to Bosnia, I have to say. But so much healing is still needed. A lot of healing is still needed. Well, you will know more, of course. But I only know that wherever healing is needed, God's love is so important. It's the greatest healing force. So that connection is important on so many levels. And then my heart can really become strong if it's filled with that divine love from God, with that divine peace. And strong in the sense that if I'm giving out that love and peace in my vibration, and I have that atmosphere around me, how can negativity penetrate anyway? It's impossible. You know, sometimes people say, oh, you know, I must protect myself. Well, there's a little bit of fear in that. Don't think about protecting yourself, but think about giving out so much love that anyway, negativity can't find a place or can't find a way in. This is what we have to do. This is what the world needs right now, because there's been so much trauma everywhere, and healing is needed through love, through divine love especially. And when I do feel that connection, and then I feel that there is a being who is protecting me, and a being who can take away my burdens. And if I can hand over my burdens, my worries, my fears, whatever it is, to God, then I can become free. Free to be, free to fill. There's now space to fill myself with love. And, you know, when I hand over the burdens, I have to really trust. I have to say, okay, God, I will do my best in whatever the situation is, but the rest is up to you. The result is up to you. I'm not in charge of that, and I'm free from worrying about that. With that strength, that support, I do what I have to do. I follow my conscience. I work from a place of truth. And then I have the guarantee that God is going to take care of me. And so this is a very beautiful way of really making the heart strong and beginning to work on a completely different level. And it is so needed. It is so needed. And because we've moved away in so many ways, not everywhere, of course, from spirituality or from, you know, really understanding these truths, we really have come into a lot of chaos in the world. And the thing is that everything is interconnected. You know, it's actually called, I think, chaos theory. And it's something like when a butterfly flaps its wings in China, there's a hurricane in South America. So it's an illustration that the whole world is interconnected, and we as human beings are interconnected. And whatever human beings are doing on one part of the planet has an impact on the whole planet. And so I can never say, oh, I can't make a difference. What's the good of that? You can, and you do. And so let me make a difference that is actually going to be something of upliftment, bringing goodness into the world, bringing truth into the world, bringing peace into the world, bringing love into the world. Again, on one of the interviews for Daddy, on Daddy's tribute, somebody who's an activist said that he asked Daddy about righteous anger and, you know, what's happening in the world. And she said to him, well, if you have the seed of anger in you, you can never be an agent for peace. Only peace will bring up, only the seed of peace will bring about peace. And he said, everything began to change in my life after that. As I experienced that inner peace, and I continue to experience inner peace. Doesn't mean that you're not active. You can be active, you can be, an activist, and I love this, I learned about this a few years back, and I thought, yes, this is right. I learned about sacred activism. Activism that's not born out of anger, but born out of really wanting to bring to society sacred values, such as truth, respect, compassion, tolerance. That's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing for justice, because these are the values I want to bring to the world, not because I'm angry. So it's a different seed that is being planted. And so, yes, a lot of things to think about in terms of a wise mind and a strong heart. But the foundation of everything is truth. The truth of who I am and the truth of my connection with the divine. Thank you. Stop there for any questions or comments.
Okay, I will now ask more questions. Ok, molim vas da ako imate pitanja, postavite pitanja u chatu. Ako je nešto prekomplikovano, dignite ruku i moći ćete usmeno da postavite pitanja. Ako ste na Facebooku, onda na Facebooku postavite pitanje, pitanje će se preneti na Zoom. Okay. While we are waiting for the others to ask questions, I was going to ask my question, if you don't mind. You were talking about that person who was aggressively talking to you, and then you didn't change the vision of him, even though he wasn't polite.
Yes, it's true.
And I'm sure even when he came back to apologize, which is great for him, but I'm sure you didn't change the vision again. So your vision stayed constant.
Yes.
My question is, does it mean that our vision of people shouldn't really depend on their behavior?
Yes, exactly. Yes, good question. Absolutely, because, if our vision of people depends on their behavior, then our vision is going to be changing all the time. And then they're not going to feel any kind of stability from me, and they won't be able to trust me, because today I'll look at them this way, tomorrow another way. Think of a child. If you have a child, bringing up a child, really, for parents, the vision stays the same, doesn't it? It takes a lot, really a lot, for the vision to change. And the child knows that. That's why a child feels safety. Yes, a child will be naughty, a child will do whatever, but the parent still says, this is my child. The vision doesn't change, the love doesn't change. And if it does, it's very, very difficult for the child. So yeah, very, very important. As much as I can, if I keep that vision constant, then that really is very, very helpful for my relationships and for the atmosphere, and definitely for that person and for me too. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
That is actually protecting ourselves too, and them, because we vibrate. So
yeah.
You said we have vibrations.
Yes, it is protected, because when I react, when somebody gets angry, it's like they're inviting me into their script, So it's like they're saying, oh, look, I've written this script for you. Here you are, play it. And you say, oh, certainly, of course. And then you get angry in return, And they've just influenced you, and they've just become the master of you, and you've lost your autonomy, right? So why should I do that? I don't like it. When it happens to me, I get upset with myself. So why did I do that? And then I remember, no, be kind to myself. Getting upset with myself isn't going to help either. So yeah, we want to maintain that dignity, actually.
Yes, I like the way you described all the channel communications should be used for spreading love and radiating love. So there is no free channel for something to come back, negativity.
That's right. Exactly.
So, yes. And when we radiate love out, that would be love to myself and to the others. So for my own sake, for their own sake, I'm not going to get angry.
That's right. Because I can only radiate it if I have it. If I don't have it.
That's right. Yeah. Nobody can press a button we don't have.
That is true. Yeah. And sometimes,
okay. Yes. Sorry, please. Yes.
No, I was just going to say, sometimes when people do press our buttons, of course, it's like we're being reflected. They're reflecting to me what I am. Isn't it?
That's right.
Very interesting. Sure.
Very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. We don't. Oh, okay. I was just gonna say we don't seem to have questions, but there is. As I was going to say it, we got a question. So I'll just read it loud, and I believe the translator will translate. So, for me, is also about migrant people and vision about them, and they do migrant people,
okay,
and vision about them, and I do not want to speak negative, just to send good vibrations, even if we did have some talk between friends, but it should always be for good wishes.
Agree. You see, again, this thing of vision, it's so, I'll tell you a couple of stories. Many years back, we held an event called Respect, It's About Time. And one of the people on the panel was a young person who had come to Britain. Now, this was in the 90s, early 90s. He'd come to Britain as a refugee. And he said, and he talked about, and he talked about what he'd been through. And he was just 17 at the time. And he had already started to help other refugees. He was doing, some, I don't know exactly what work he was doing, but he was running a magazine for refugees and so on. And he was a person making such a good contribution to society. And yet he had to battle with the vision that was coming to him from others. And so often, we just see somebody or we hear about them and we just have this impression and that's how they are. And we don't really know the person personally. That happens just too often. We label a whole group of people, this group is, what can I say? I don't use any labels, but you know what I mean. We label groups of people, we label religions, we label, And another story, I was talking with someone who runs a Center for Reconciliation, and I've forgotten the exact title anyway, in the UK. But he had worked, and he had worked a lot with refugees. And he'd worked with refugees from Syria. And he was doing a kind of questionnaire, and he decided to put in 2 questions of a much more human kind of level. And he asked them, what was the last thing you did before you came? What was the last thing you did before you came away from your home? And what was apart from your mobile phone and your children, what was the most precious thing you brought with you? And he said, majority of the answers were the same. People said the last thing they did was that they locked their front door. And the most precious thing they brought after the children and the mobile phone was their door key. And he said, so these people want to go home. They don't want to just sit here. And he said it was very moving the way he said it. And, you know, we have this vision of people here to, whatever, take advantage, but who wouldn't want to go home, you know? So this the whole migrant issue is so difficult. And if even one person in that community does something bad, yes, the whole community is like that. It just happens too often. And I always feel, you know, a little sad about it, although my heart has to be stronger, of course. And I say that I know it's not right. So yeah, it's a very good comment. Agree.
Thank you. Okay, so we don't seem to have any further questions.
Oh, okay. I thought them. Okay.
That's fine. So perhaps we could go a little bit into meditation. So if you just give me a moment to announce.
Sure.
Ok. I sada ćemo imati par minuta meditacije koja će biti vođena sa strane Maureen. Okay, so we're going to have some music in the background and then you can speak.
Okay, should I? Okay. Wait for the music. But I'll just say that, you know, it's so important to make time every day for some silence, to be with yourself, to fill up from the divine. And if we don't do this every day, it's like the gap doesn't get filled because we don't accumulate that strength. We may take some strength, then we use it. We take some strength, then we use it. But we need to accumulate the strength so that we can really move forward in the best way through all the challenges that certainly are going to keep coming to us in today's world. So a daily practice is so essential.
Okay, Sister Maureen, if you can just take us through the meditation without background music.
No problem. Let me take a few moments to be with myself. To get to know myself as I truly am. When I get caught up in all the roles that I play, it's as if there are many versions of me. But who is the real me? Who am I, really? As I step away from the roles, as I step away from my physical identity, I realize that I am a conscious living being, a being, spiritual energy, a being of light. And the focus for this light is in the center of my forehead. I visualize tiny point of light shining. And the energy from this light permeates through my whole body and also into the atmosphere around me. In this awareness of who I am, I easily and naturally begin to experience my original state of being. I go beneath the surface into the depth of who I am. I am a being of peace. I am a being of love. I am a being of truth. This is the energy that I give out. This is the atmosphere I create around me. And in the silence, the stillness, I know I can connect the source of peace, the source of love, with the divine. I, the soul, with a single thought, connect with that ocean of peace. And I feel the waves of peace making me calm, bringing me safety. And as I connect with the ocean of love, love, divine love, fills my being. Bringing nourishment, bringing harmony, bringing healing. I'm filled with strength and courage. I understand what I have to do. My conscience is awakened. And I allow those vibrations of divine love and divine peace to emanate out into my surroundings, into the world. This is a world in need. And in connection with the divine, I can become an instrument to help God fulfill that need. To bring humanity together, to bring about a world of love. Gradually, I return to my body, my surroundings, but I return filled with peace, with love, with truth.
Thank you very much. That was very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't normally do questions after meditation. It was so very nice, but if you don't mind, another question has arrived.
That's okay.
And it's of fundamental nature. This is why I chose to ask you if you would answer. Okay, so the question is, what are the most important things we have to do to find ourselves? And when we do actually know, when do we actually know if we have found ourselves?
Well, most important thing we have to do is to be in silence and practice the things that we've been talking about. And, you know, don't just take it as an intellectual exercise, but for the sake of experience it, if you want to practice that idea that I'm a soul, a being of light in the center of the forehead, then practice it really as if it's true. You see what I mean? Don't practice it to see, well, let me see how it goes. Then if we practice with doubt, we won't get the experience. And then we'll say, well, you see, it didn't work anyway. It wasn't true. So this is the way the consciousness is. Really say, okay, this is true. I'm going to practice. And then when you get that experience, you know, you will definitely know, because you will feel that inner peace. You will feel that love. You'll feel good in yourself. And you will feel a sense of dignity. And that is so beautiful. And then you say, okay, now I understand. And sometimes it takes time to practice and get into the experience, but don't give up. Keep practicing with love, keep practicing with faith, and you get there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a lovely presentation. Actually, when I was introducing you, I said that, you know, we had met 20 years ago, and that all advice I've ever heard from you was very practical and very ready to implement. And now I'm sure everybody believes me. Okay, we are getting comments that it was the presentation was wonderful. So there is lots of gratitude messages.
I'm glad it was helpful. And
yes.
Please practice and please enjoy all these things. It really helps to make a better life, really, for yourself and for others.
Yeah, it's a very good topic, strong heart and
it is,
wise mind. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much. I'll just announce the program for next week. But thank you very much, and everybody is grateful and sending positive feedback. So thank you. Okay, so hvala svima na priključivanju večeras i hvala vam svima na pitanjima, na komentarima i na pozitivnoj i povratnoj informaciji. Samo bih htjela da vam kažem šta se još dešava, šta se dešava sljedeće nedelje. Znači, sljedeće nedelje isto vreme, na istom mjestu, dobit ćete link. Imamo prezentaciju na temi kako postići zadovoljstvo na poslu, a predavač će biti Ratibor Aleksić, znači naš čovjek sa Balkana, ali javit će se iz Pariza. Znači, priključit će se iz Pariza, zato što živi i radi u Parizu, i pričat će o temi kako postići zadovoljstvo na poslu, što je vrlo važna tema. Ok, hvala vam opet svima. Thank you very much again, Sister Maureen. And Shanti.
Shanti. Bye-bye.